Hi everyone, it's Suey, and today I'm going to do something that I've been wanting to do on this channel, one of my original goals, and that is to kind of do a crossover with my Asian K-pop passion. Hopefully you guys will find this interesting. It's kind of a celebrity book list, but it's a celebrity that is somebody in K-pop. Even if you don't know who this is, then still you might find it interesting to see what's on their list. If you do know who it is, then you will really find it interesting to see the kind of stuff he likes. So the other day, my friend Emily sent me a link to this article and she's like, you might find this interesting. And I loved it. And I'm like, okay, I have to do a video. That was my first thought because I want to talk about the books that are on this guy's lists. The K-pop idol we are highlighting today is Kanghyun from a band called ONEWE. This is a band. A lot of people think K-pop is dancing, which it is a lot. These guys are an instrument band. So Kanghyun is the main guitar player for this band and one of their main songwriters also. All the guys in the band write songs and sometimes they collab together. He makes some beautiful songs. Made a little clip for my other channel highlighting some of his performances, and I'll stick a little teeny bit right here. That whole thing, be sure and click on the link and you can see the whole thing. It's only about 2.5 minutes long on the other channel. One of the first things I learned about Kanghyun is that he loves books. And the first song that I fell in love with from this band is called Regulus, which is a song he wrote about the Little Prince. I was impressed right off from the very beginning with that. And then I quickly learned that he tends to want to just read when he has downtime. There was an app called VLive. It's no longer, doesn't exist anymore, but the guys could get on there and just talk about whatever and stream and do a live vlog or whatever. And he would get on there and read and talk about books sometimes. And he started a thing where you could just hang out and read with him, and he has versions of his songs and his guitar playing kind of his background music, and he just puts videos out there for people to read along with him. So I think some of these books came from things that he was reading during some of these streams that he would do. Let's just go through his list. There's 15 on the list, and I got this from kpopmap.com, where they have been starting to highlight a couple of the guys in K-pop who love to read. And there's a lot of them, and I've got some other lists too, which I will do for other videos. When I'm doing these, I'm calling them crossover videos, meshing my two favorite things. But I won't always do K-pop stuff. I will highlight Asian authors and books set in Asia and all kinds of things. So if you're rolling your eyes over the K-pop thing, this will just be sometimes what I'll do, okay? But this was a fun one I thought I would start with. So Kanghyun from ONEWE, this is his list. The first one on the list is Lord of the Rings, which I guess he gets very, very excited about if anybody would sit there and talk to him about Lord of the Rings. And we all know that there's many of us who are huge fans of this series. I have several copies on my shelf, the old 70s versions that my husband had, and then we got hold of this really huge one where all three books are in one, which I think is cool. I didn't read these myself until later on in life, right around the time that the movies were out. I feel like I struggled with them before that, but the movies helped me understand things a little better. And then, of course, I loved them. I remember the cliffhanger for book 2 blew me away. Anyway, so yes, awesome book to start out with. The second one on his list is The Plague by Albert Camus. I was going to look this up to make sure that that's said it in a French way. Yes? Camus? I don't know. This one I think I've heard much about, have not read it myself. but it definitely sounds like one that would be a great one to read, and probably especially during our own plague times, don't you think? Third one, The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat by Oliver Sacks. Now I remember that this one was really popular a few years ago, and in fact our book club decided to read it for book club one time, and I think I struggled. I might have read maybe a third or fourth or a third of it or so. It's case studies of weird neurological brain situations, and some of them are pretty bizarre. And a lot of people really got into it, including Kanghyun, I guess. But I remember, I don't think I actually got through that book. Interesting, but also didn't. I didn't. I couldn't focus on it or something. I can't remember exactly. The fourth one on here is The Little Prince, which I talked about already, which Kanghyun loves a ton and made the song about, and has all kinds of things that tie back to The Little Prince. I've read this one a couple of times. Often I forget like what it's trying to say. I know the whole thing is very symbolic, and I think the most recent time I read it, I started to finally understand a little bit more what it's trying to say, the moral of the story. But it's been a while now again that I can't completely remember either. But such a teeny tiny little book. If you haven't read it, it's time you read that one now and let me know what you think and what you think it's trying to say. Number 5 on the list, The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. I remember this one is one that was probably on a book list when I was in school, and I never read it. I picked other books from the list to read. So I think I might try to read this one as one of the prompts for, I think it's the Pop Sugar Challenge. Read a book that you should have read during school. And so if Kanghyun thinks it's good, I think I want to know why. Number 6 I find to be interesting because it's the book I just barely finished for book club. My grandmother asked me to tell you she's sorry by Frederick Bachman. And I guess this one was something that Kanghyun was reading to lighten up the mood a little bit, which, as you can see, everything on his list is pretty heavy and deep and quite philosophical and intellectual brain power, right? Not that this book doesn't have that, but it is much more lighthearted than some of these other things. So I love that it is on his list and something that stood out to him. And that makes me wonder if he's read some other Frederick Bachman books yet. Number 7 is Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse, and this is another one that I remember being on a list at school, so that I never actually read. And I think, yes, this one is on the shelf behind me. Very little, easy reading, so maybe I'll read this one for that Pop Sugar prompt. I don't think I ever read it. Maybe I'll read it and go, wait a minute, and it will be familiar. But as far as I know, I never actually got this one read. I don't think we have The Stranger, but not The Plague. Okay. Number 8 is Hamlet by Shakespeare. One of I'm thinking most everyone's favorite Shakespeare plays, yes, maybe most familiar. So many awesome from this play, and I love that it's on his list. Number 9, Animal Farm by George Orwell. Yes, this one I love also. I've read it a couple of times. In every reread, I find more interesting things about it. And I feel like in our day and age, it's starting to be more and more relatable, this crazy story. A lot of people can't stand Animal Farm, so let me know which camp you are in for that book. Number 10 is The Death of Ivan Ilyich by Leo Tolstoy. Now, I have read several Leo Tolstoy books, but I have not read this one. Let me see. On my shelf, I have The Kreutzer Sonata and Other Short Stories. The Death of Ivan Ilyich is in this one. It is in this one, so it's a short story, not an actual novel. Ooh, I'm gonna read this. Can I count it as a novel? Or is it really just a short story? If I read the other stories in this one, can I count it as something? Okay. So exciting when you find something on your shelf that you didn't really know you had. All right. Leo Tolstoy has some really interesting, cool stories, and I've always been a fan of his. He is intimidating, but not that much to me. Does that make sense? A little bit, but not like overly. Let me know, have you guys read Leo Tolstoy, and what's your favorite thing he's written? Number 11 on this list is Pride and Prejudice, which in the little blurb in the article that I read, it said that Kanghyun was fascinated with this story and loved it and loved the characters. And I'm just like, really? That is so cool. Because like, you know, usually it's sort of a girl thing, do I dare say this in this day and age, to like that book. So I love, love, love that he is also a fan. And I'm wondering if he's watched the movies and which one you think he would love the best. I hope it's the Colin Firth. Okay, so yeah, so Pride and Prejudice, and that's so awesome to me. Number 12, The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. And so, yes, this one is one that I read this past year. So I love that these two books, the other one that I just barely read, are on his list. Some recent ones that I've read. It sounds like that this one got him really interested in quantum physics. And so he's like gone ahead and studied stuff like that, which I find so cool. Love that one's on his list also. Number 13 is a Korean book called Only Hana on Earth by Chung Sarong. And so I haven't heard of this one. I guess it's sort of a science fiction one. I looked it up on Amazon, can't see it there. So that's the kind of thing that I would love to do, is find books like this that I would have never picked up, except for it's on somebody's list and they rave about it. So if you guys can help me figure out how to find this one and then the next one on the list, then that'd be awesome. The next one is also a Korean, it's a Korean series of 10 books called Taebok Mountains by Cho Jung Rae. Taebok Mountains, and it's a historical saga of the history of South Korea, which I would love. It's a little daunting how much that would be to read, but oh my gosh, that would be so interesting. I love sagas. I love the swooping novels that take place over a huge amount of time. So cool. But can't see where I can get a hold of something like that in English. Too bad I cannot read Korean at this point. And I don't think it's going to ever happen. But maybe someday somebody will translate this, or maybe it exists out there and I just have to be a little bit more skilled in my detective work on trying to find it. So that sounds awesome. And I think it's so cool that Kanghyun loves big family sagas also. And then the last one on the list is Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. I'm pretty certain that he probably read this one because of the TV series. I read this, just the first one. I haven't read the series. I read the first one years ago, way before the series happened. And I enjoyed it for the intensity, but it was a little bit too much for me. So I did not continue with the series. But while I was reading it, let me tell you, I was hooked. I was glued to the pages, if I remember right. I feel like going over this list, we have some things in common, and there are definitely some ones I would love to read, especially those kind of classics that, like I said, were ones that I remember being on lists when I was in school. I know they're all really little ones, and I should be able to go through them fairly quickly. Kanghyun has inspired me to do that, and I love that we have some in common. And it's so much fun to know what kind of books he's picked up and has enjoyed. I hope you've enjoyed this, and this will be, like I said, the beginning of a new series of doing things that have an Asian tie-in. I also want to do more videos where I just do book lists of different categories of lists. If you guys have any suggestions for some sort of list you would love me to do, let me know in comments, and let me know if you have read any of these books and which ones are your favorites. I'm also starting a new series where I am going to go through these shelves book by book, every book on the shelf, and kind of talk about everything in more detail. So if that sounds like something you are interested in, be sure to watch the first one where I do the first bit of my YA collection. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Happy reading. Bye.